We may give a chance to your support staff in
Sure.
case there is any addition or subtraction.
Yes. Proceed.
I'm sure for now all has been said, especially in relation to curriculum development. Thank you.
Madam Banda. Doc. You may proceed, Honorable Mutiti.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the witness, or should I say witnesses. I'm glad you mentioned that you'll be helping the development of the framework or the curriculum that will lead to registering for these persons who are currently secretary to be registered as professional secretary. I think that's what I got from you. Because you agree with me that an academic qualification that you get from your respective university should not be the basis for being registered as a professional person. It should be training that is acquired from that professional registering body. In this case, this secretarial new body that we want to form. So I want to just to get it from you again in black and white, whether that will be the framework or the intention or the roadmap for persons to be registering as professional secretary or secretaries. I submit, Chair.
Honorable Mandandi.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just to have more clarity, we are talking of secretaries. My friend, the Honorable Member, earlier on alluded to something like a difference between a secretary and a professional secretary. But I think there wasn't a convincing explanation on that. But again, I'm seeing it continues to pop up. Let me draw your attention to section 21. Yeah, a person shall not practice as a professional secretary without a valid certificate, a valid professional practice certificate issued to that person by the institute under this act. Yeah, meaning that a person only qualifies to be a professional secretary upon the issuance of a practicing certificate by this act. And if not, they are not qualified as professional secretary. Could that be the correct interpretation of this? And then it therefore goes to say, a person shall not offer employment to a person who does not hold a practicing certificate issued under this act. This is quite alarming and very dangerous, especially for people like me from rural constituencies. You may pass through my office, of course not the official office, you find my son or my daughter offering secretarial services. And because that person is not registered with you, will be liable to an offense and to a conviction. How do you intend to ensure that you people are not indiscriminately arrested as a result of this clause? Those that may have the skill to offer secretarial services and yet they are not registered with yourselves. I submit.
Honorable Katuta.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, my question is almost like Honorable Mandandi's question, though. We've seen a lot of secretarial services. At Yunza, we have one, it's called secretarial services. If you go around some places, you see, like even the malls, it's where you find an advert, like we offer secretarial services. So this bill that we're looking at, I think, unless shown where, it's also including those because they offer secretarial services. If I want to have something tight, confidential, I can go maybe, or I have a document I can just send to, I don't know if I'm supposed to mention, like DG printers at East Park. They offer secretarial services. So I would like to know if the kind of help that you can suggest to this bill that we're looking at, like my colleague has alluded to. But the most important thing is that secretarial services are offered by many people in our country who look at it as a source of income. So I'd like to find out how this can be done in order maybe to make sure that they also become, they get trained as secretaries and what and what. I submit, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Witness, you can kindly respond. We'll be taking the questions in threes.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. May I request my colleague just to go to the section also which looks at the membership for registration as well as different classifications of people who are eligible to register. You know, sometimes when you are flipping pages like that. But our understanding of the provisions of this bill is that the institute is being proposed to be established to regulate professional practice, to regulate the profession, not to be the training providers for those that are training to be secretaries first time. What do I mean? For example, if a young person wants to become a professional secretary, meaning that they must undergo formal training from a registered training provider, which training provider could be registered with TVETA or even with the higher education authority, depending on the level of training. Once they have finished that academic training, they then present themselves to this institute to register as a member. And if awarded membership, they are not yet permitted to practice. Then they apply for professional practice. So there are two things that we see in this bill. Membership application, which according to the bill, somewhere I was reading, it says once membership has been awarded to an individual, upon applying for membership and the presentation of that evidence that they undertook a recognized training, which resulted into some form of certification, then they are admitted as a member. But then they are also required now to apply for a practicing certificate. Membership certificate, once admitted, is for life. It has got an unlimited validity. But the practicing certificate has got to be renewed on an annual basis. That's what the bill is saying. Then the training that this institute will do is kind of training which normally people would call continuous professional development courses, CPDs, which are not the same like training which you do in college. This is now specific to make you a better performer on your job. So CPDs are ongoing for life, and that's why they continue subscribing or renewing their practicing certificate. So in terms of training, maybe we need to distinguish that. There is a training from college, and then there is that CPD now, which happens from the institute, which is work-based, just to sharpen their skills, which is very important because undergoing training at a college, for example, it gives you a general framework of understanding things. But when we go in industry, you agree with me that it's a different environment and ballgame altogether. You need now training which is work or job specific, that is the CPD that goes on and facilitated by the institute. Now, the other question was, don't we see now this bill disadvantaging certain people who may not have the qualifications required for registration? I don't know, maybe you can speak to that there are also different classifications. You have found it? What, you want to comment on that? Okay, you'll come to that. Yes, maybe let me ask the Director of Development to speak to that.
Maybe this is where we have 8, number of 2022, I think on that page. This is where actually a professional secretary has been defined. We are saying this professional secretary means a person who has obtained a qualification in shorthand and typewriting and possesses a secretarial certificate, diploma in secretarial studies or degree in secretarial studies. And there are these other positions that have been included. Maybe here the word professional is coming out of training that will be acquired for one to become a secretary. But I'm sure the other ones that we refer to as secretarial services, those could be in the informal sector. But I think as TVETA, we also have a training mode where we recognize such training by certifying them. We have the recognition of prior learning where others may learn on the job, and we can formally actually just award certificates to show the formalization so that there's that transition from informal to formal, so that they are also called professional secretary. That's what I wanted to add. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Just wanted to speak to the aspect that talked about maybe individuals in the community that could be offering secretarial services. And we are saying that there is a possibility that they may be disadvantaged. Maybe speaking to that, I may just borrow from what other institutes have done. So we know that individuals, even those that have not attained the full qualification, in one way or the other, you find them rendering help. Now, how do you cover them to make sure that in the event that they are made to answer maybe on the work that they've rendered? For example, you may have a student who has not yet attained the full qualification. So those are also provided for in the sense that when they enter a training institution, there's a requirement that they get registered in the membership class, which is called student secretary in this case. Then there are those that probably they could be remaining with a few, say modules, and you can provide for them to say these will be put in the category of licentiate. And also there are other categories like an associate, where somebody maybe they've finished their training and maybe this is when they are just starting to practice, maybe they've gotten employed. So those can be in the category of associate. Then we have the last top group, where now these are professional individuals that they've got their qualifications and they've been working for a long time and they're experienced. So you can put them as fellows. So we need to make sure that most of the individuals are provided for and they can fall in a certain category. But of course there is a catch. They could be those that maybe they don't even, they are trained in a different category, but they would want to ply their trade as professional secretaries. I think this is where now the institute comes in to make sure that their reputation is not dented by those who may be offering what we may call quack services. So maybe this is all I could speak to regarding that. I'm sure there may be reactions, but Chair, I also wanted to speak to the aspect of registration. What I see is there's been some confusion even in other sectors where there is this professional body, and for them they think that they are going to register the training institutions, but forgetting that their mandate is that of probably quality assurance. So the registration of the institutions that are going to offer training is a preserve, like in this case vocational training of TVETA. So meaning that this institute is not allowed or will not be allowed to register training institutions. So all they can do is just register members that have actually come out of the training institutions. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. I just wanted to take us to page 17, number 35, where it's talking about the Secretarial Bureau. So for those who will intend to offer just secretarial services, typing, printing, the Act has actually given a provision where they will need to register those services under the Secretarial Bureau with the Institute, where they will have to pay and also apply for the registration in a prescribed manner.
Which page is that?
On page 17, section 35.
Page 17.
Of the bill or
Of the bill.
Maybe just give us the clause. Ours is not number.
Okay, maybe. Is it not 29?
Oh, okay.
Is it 29 or 35? Which is which?
Okay.
Just the last part.
Oh, yeah, 35. Okay.
Okay. So I just wanted to bring to the attention of the committee that a provision has actually been given for such services, where if one intends to offer such services to the community, they can then register the services as a Secretarial Bureau with the Institute. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Katuta, then Honorable Mpundo.
It's just a follow-up question on, thank you so much, Mrs. Banda, for bringing in this, this is clause 29 of the bill. Now, we have a challenge. If you come from where I've grown up in a township. We have a lot of those secretarial services, the internet cafes, where you see people. We rush to such places. Even in my constituency, we have young men who are doing secretarial works. Now, looking at what I heard from the other witness who appeared before you came in, there's a provision which is talking about those who do not comply with this will be reliable for, I would say, for prosecution for breaking the law. Now, we have a challenge because we need to know that fee, what kind of a fee that these bureaus should be paying. We've got giant bureaus which maybe can afford 1,000 kwacha is nothing to them. We have those who are medium bureaus who can afford maybe 500. Now we have most of our people, like in Chiengi and in other areas, like in Mtendere, who are running these secretarial services, and this is just a way of surviving. So I think we need to know what kind of a fee, because anything that talks about a fee. Chair, allow me just to say this. When I visited Ministry of Lands, I discovered that to have a mortgage discharge, you need to pay 83 kwacha. Then I said, 83 kwacha is too little. How will the government raise money? But I was told the time they tried just to raise it a bit. I don't know if it was 100 kwacha. People complained. Even you people who are rich complained. So here we have a challenge. We need to know what kind of a fee is this? Is it going to be the same amount that a giant bureau is paying and someone who is in Mtendere or Chienge is going to pay? It's very important that we get this clear and the nation gets clear. So I would like to know what would be your suggestion to maybe to amend this bill before it's enacted. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. I draw you to the attention on the curricula. On your curricula, you know, these secretarial duties, they have got also dynamics, and it has evolved to some degree. Do you think you need to revise the curricula? I say so because we are in a multicultural environment where we have heard even people out there in the community complaining to say, no, these people, especially those who are coming from other jurisdictions, to say, oh, they are engaging secretaries from other jurisdictions, which is bringing those conflictual issues. Do you think you need to revise your curriculum to accommodate languages like Chinese, Portuguese, or those should be optional in your curricula, such that you broaden the base of these so-called professional secretaries? Because you are able to argue, even as government, they are able to argue to say, why are you engaging people from other jurisdictions? Meanwhile, we have secretaries who are trained in this area. Do you think you are able to accommodate this in your curriculum? Then the last one I'll ask is to do with your examinations. Now that this institute will be law, will be guided by the law, do you think within the institute, when it comes to your examination, on your board of exam, you will be accommodating at least one member, maybe from this institution, to be part of the board when setting the examinations? Those are the two questions.
Yeah.
I think we now have 3 questions, right? Okay, so we can allow the witnesses to respond, then you come in, Honorable Mtiki.
Chairperson, thank you very much for those very important questions. I will request that the director in charge of curriculum just gives a quick synopsis of how our curriculum development process is conducted, just to ensure that it responds to emerging needs, such as what has just been shared by the honorable member. Also, I would ask Madam Wezwa here just to comment on how the setting of examinations is done to ensure that we draw the expertise and the competencies from the respective institutions. Secretarial Institute will just be one, but how they can make their contribution to the examination processes. Maybe any one of you can start as we wait for the honorable member who raised an issue over the fees. We can comment on it. Yes, madam.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, DG, for the opportunity. So, curriculum development and languages in the secretarial curriculum. Thank you, Honorable. Our curriculum is usually revised after 5 years for the diploma and 4 years for the level 4, which is a 2-year program. And as it were, I'm happy to mention that the secretarial curricula at about 4 levels were revised and approved just last year. But the issue of languages is maybe what I should respond to. During our curriculum development and review, we usually do the training needs assessment so that the curriculum is actually informed by what is required out there. And after that, I think this is where we still work with our key stakeholders just to develop, validate until we approve. So really the issue of languages is quite interesting. But I think from the needs assessment, we had an issue to do with languages where we developed another curriculum in interpretation and translation, which was looking at languages, although not yet rolled out. But the idea of also bringing it in the secretarial program, I think it's one thing that we can appreciate and maybe just relook at it and see how best we can handle it, I'm sure, in the next review. Thank you. I don't know if DG would want to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Chair, and thank you, DG. Our examination program is as follows. Firstly, we appoint examiners in expert subjects from various institutions. These examiners are accredited to TVETA, okay? And they are also accredited as trainers. So when examinations are about to start, we form panels. Others are engineering, sciences, and all that. They sit and set these papers. Now for secretarial, the same. So we have representation from all our institutions here in the country, all those who are accredited to TVETA. And when it comes to, in the past year, we talk about the board. At the moment, we don't have a board. We do have presentations from various institutions who come and sit on our board. Yeah, but right now, when we carry out these examinations preparation, we do invite secretaries from this same executive, Zambia Institute of Secretaries. We do have some members who come and sit on our curricula, and they are there to represent the secretarial cadre in the country. Thank you, Your Honor.
Maybe just to add to what the two colleagues have said, the Institute provides a reliable stakeholder at various levels of delivering on our mandate. For example, we have guidelines that we follow to register training institutions, as well as the setting of minimum training standards that, for example, Mrs. Banda's department uses. Those minimum training standards are arrived at through the process of consultations, and it is at that stage that stakeholders such as the Zambia Institute of Secretaries are consulted so that they inform those minimum training standards. Similarly, at curriculum development, one of the key informers to curriculum development processes is the institute itself, because they are the ones that know what professional secretarial practice is. So then they must prescribe what a graduate of secretarial training, what competencies they must have. Those now get translated into a training program. So once the curriculum has been developed and has been taken through a validation process. The validation process involves taking the draft curriculum to the key stakeholders, who include the industry and the institute itself, for them to endorse, to say, yes, we are in agreement with this training program. Then that program is now rolled out into training institutions. So it is based on that approved training program or the curriculum that now examinations are set by or through the experts that we engage from registered training institutions as well as those who are practicing industry. We invite them to accredit as external examiners. They help in the development of examinations as well as actually marking those examinations, including the moderating those exams. But the actual approval of the exam is done by the TVETA board. So then all that is done to ensure that our training programs as well as the assessments and certification process speaks to producing a graduate that will be closer linked to what industry is expecting. Now, Honorable had asked about what the fees would be. Would want to agree with her concern, but there is a clause somewhere which indicates that there will be a constitution that the institute will be working with. Then probably we want to expect also that through the powers vested into the minister responsible as provided for by this bill, the minister is the one responsible for approving even the fees payable. So at that point, probably I think it's a good concern which must be registered to and made known to the institute as well as the minister in charge, so that when they are approving these fees, they are considerate of those from the vulnerable groups so that they are not disadvantaged. And preferably, the fees could be categorized so that those who are more advantageous than others, they can pay a little more for certain services, so that we also encourage others also to establish themselves. Otherwise, we think the requirement that all practitioners register is a good idea, because if others are going to be left unattended to, then controlling the quality of practice will be a problem. So the issue of the fees could be discussed, but at least if everyone is made to follow certain minimum standards in the practice of secretarial service, we think it could be a good idea. I don't know, Clive, did you want to say something through the chair?
I think my contribution would have been on two areas. One of them is that those that have experiential skills, they have learned on the job in terms of providing secretarial studies. TVETA and the institute to work together to ensure that they are assessed and given competence certificates through a process called recognition of prior learning. So if you have got youths in your constituencies that are providing these services over the years, but they have no qualification to show, there's that window in the country which allows someone to be assessed based on what they have been practicing to get a certificate, and then later on they can be registered with the Institute of Secretarial Studies. Then also, in terms of us, I know the Honorable spoke about companies like DigiPrint. Probably maybe the institute can consider including corporate membership, so that well-established companies like DigiPrint can register under the bureau as corporate entities. Then they will have their own fees that they can be paid to ensure that they are also compliant to the standards that would have been set within this bill. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm happy that I'm seated before you here. One of my first qualification was from your institute.
it was quite hectic. I hope you have now worked on it. Electrical technologist. My contribution is you mentioned that you are going to help the people from industry, the professionals, they help with setting exams. Why not help with the setting of the curriculum? Because from experience, it's really a tough one where you find exams set by people who would never set the curriculum. And then it is the other side. And the scholars are there repeating courses for 10 years. Especially engineering, you know what it is. And then the syllabus is exactly like a degree level, but the paper is very small. I'm speaking for those students out there. At least they have someone today to speak for them. Yeah, but in this case today, my question is, how are you going to make sure that you do not over-enroll? Because we know that secretaries these times are not everyone is employing secretaries like it used to be. Everyone does their own work. How are you going to work to make sure that you regulate this in the industry, and that these secretaries produced by you are going to work and benefit from the bill? Because we see it's just by name. These institutions are collecting money. Sometimes people are not even employed. They are busy collecting money. And then it just becomes like a business spinner. The other side, people are getting frustrated. Those who finished after training for 5 years to get a diploma, they come and they don't have a job, but they're asked to pay. So I don't know how you are going to do it. Since you support the bill, I can see that. What you are doing to maybe make sure that your own act as the VETA is not only certification at a certain level, but again at a certain level it becomes tricky because you know how many graduate. I think at diploma level, especially for engineering students, it's very tough. Sometimes you find 2 people. I hope that has changed, that narrative has changed. I hope it will not be the same for secretaries. And then when they go in industry, they don't have employment, and they are going to belong to this body. Thank you.
You can proceed, Honorable Mtike.
Thank you, Chair. Before you came in, I was asking the earlier witness what has broken down or what are we trying to fix, and I think I'm now on the same page, probably with the rest of you. So if I want you just to correct me if I understand exactly what this bill is trying to achieve. First of all, we are going to change the name of the Secretarial College, as stipulated. And the second thing is that we want to register secretaries who want to be called professional secretaries. This is what this bill seeks to achieve. Maybe, sometimes just a few good things to register as a professional person. And the third thing that we are going to be registering these bureaus which are all over and that kind of thing. Maybe some as corporate, some as just a small membership there and that kind of thing. And then those who are currently practicing as secretaries will not be disadvantaged. They will be helped sometimes on using the job on training if they have the necessary competencies to be registered. So I just wanted to be in the clear whether you agree with me. That's basically what the bill seeks to do. Your role is easier to understand because you provide training and all that. So you'll be assisting probably this institute to develop the curriculum of what and to develop the curriculum so that these people registering as PS, professors can have these certain competencies and that kind of thing. Basically, that's what I get from your presentation. Am I correct? And if there's something I missed, you can add or subtract. Thank you. I submit, Chair.
Honorable Mandand.
Thank you very much, Chair. Witness, you may actually understand and agree with me that most of the problems we have in these offices are as a result of professional secretaries conducting themselves in very unprofessional manners, leading to leakages of classified information to the public. And this bill seeks to cure such kind of misconduct. And I want to draw you to page 27. Yeah, page 27 and 26, both of course, where upon being satisfied by the disciplinary committee that a professional secretary who has misconducted him or herself, the disciplinary committee may order at 130 the professional secretary to pay to the institute or to a party to the hearing the costs or incidental to the proceedings. Very punitive. When we look at the financial status of our secretaries around this country, here you are talking of legal costs. And then it also further guides to say the disciplinary committee, the chairperson of the disciplinary committee shall only be someone who is a legal practitioner. Meaning that these proceedings or the sittings will be conducted by a legal practitioner. And in itself, this will amount to a legal hearing, if I can put it that way, or a trial. So that at the end of this sitting, once this secretary has been found wanting, this secretary should be able to bear the costs to pay for the aggrieved parties. Surely, how practical is this, considering the poverty levels among us, our secretaries? I submit.
Witnesses, you may proceed to respond to the questions.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and for those very important observations. The submission from the honorable member who has just made the submission, I think he made very good observations, some of it which become very relevant to the question that was raised by the honorable, now the name is gone, not the vice chair, but your neighbor, yes, when he asked to say what is this bill trying to achieve. Is exactly to try and regulate the practice of professional secretaries, because they have always conducted themselves in an unprofessional manner, and it has costed us sometimes not only millions of kwacha but also a lot of time to try and remedy the situation. So the people that are in this sector, they realize that having a school certificate is not sufficient, because people need to be regulated when they are in industry so that they mind how they conduct themselves. People will be trained from many colleges dotted around the country, and they will be exposed to different kind of maybe cultures and things like that. But when they come into industry, they must subscribe to certain professional ethics that they must uphold at all times, so that we raise the level of integrity of professional secretaries. And hence, this bill. But again, we are noting here that some of the sanctions that have been proposed in the bill might appear to be very punitive because we have associated our cadre in the professional secretaries to be sometimes low earning, but also bearing in mind that most of our people, I think their earning levels are a little bit too low. That is appreciated, but I think from ourselves as people who regulate training, we see this as an opportunity to raise the level of professional secretarial training, even as a course in colleges. Why do I say so? In most training, if most organizations are going to be allowed to pick whoever they want and place them in an office and task them to perform the function of professional secretary without professional training and without having an oversight body, we'll find ourselves in the same situation where we have people who are conducting themselves in a manner that puts us in problems. So I think the proposed bill, that's why we are supporting it, that apart from just us supervising the training environment, let there be some other body that is going to supervise people when they go out into industry. And this institute, that will be their business, to supervise people who are in industry. Vice Chair talked about employment versus the number of people that we keep churning out from our colleges. You agree with me that sometimes there are certain professions where we have a lot of people graduating and they go without jobs. Not necessarily that there is completely no job out there, but sometimes it's because professional practice is not regulated. Why do I say so? Let me take an example of bricklaying as a profession. Everywhere you walk about here in Lusaka now is more or less a construction site, meaning that bricklayers have jobs. But if you go there, some of those people who are actually working as bricklayers, they have not gone through a formal bricklaying training course. They have learned on the job. But you will find people on the street, some of them who have graduated from colleges, they don't have opportunities to work. So then we end up saying, no, there is no jobs for bricklayers. But if we could also regulate, for example, the bricklaying profession, so that for anyone to be allowed to be found on a construction site, they must be registered either with the engineering institution, and to register with the engineering institution, they must show evidence that they went through a formal training school and they have a certificate. That way, we will try and regularize and make people see the need to undergo through formal training systems. So all that, we see that this bill is trying not only to solve the practice in industry, but also to help our training provision so that we can attract people to undergo formal training systems. However, she talked also about whether this institute is going to participate in curriculum development as well as setting of exams. That's exactly what happens actually. Mrs. Banda will share with you that even inspections of colleges that offer engineering training programs, when she sends her inspectors, for example, to NOTEC, the inspectors don't go alone. They go with either one or two engineers appointed by the institute, because they are the ones who appreciate the engineering environment. Similarly, when we are reviewing curricula for engineering-related programs, the Engineering Institute of Zambia becomes a key stakeholder. And the same for secretarial programs. That's exactly what will happen, and many other professions that way. My colleagues maybe may want to comment on some of the things that I may have left out. Clive, have I left out something? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, witnesses. Allow us to give an opportunity to Honorable Mandandi to make a quick follow-up question.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just on that one, where we are talking about the person who has been found guilty, you know, being required to pay. In an event that, because there is no option here, in an event that this particular offender has no means to pay, what other options are we going to look at? And these are the same lacunas that we keep talking about, because here someone tried, because we are told this is a judicial proceeding, tried, people spent colossal amounts of money. According to this act, this person is supposed to pay because she's guilty or he's guilty, and they have no money. What next? What will follow? Thank you.
Witness.
In other pieces of registration, for instance, they provide options. Either you can pay a fee or a conviction. Yeah, so I think in cases where we see the lacuna is detected early, like now.
Yes.
As the honorable members who sit in amendments, probably I think that's where amendments need to be made before the law is, before this bill is passed into law, and before we can pass out a problem to these practitioners of this particular profession. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our permanent witness, would you like to add on to the question from Honorable Mandandi? Okay. Thank you so much, witnesses. We are extremely grateful as a committee for your submission, and that this time kindly allow us to withdraw the immunity that was given to you. I can see our able madams laughing, Madam Chisanga there and Madam Kasonkomona. Okay, so your immunity is now withdrawn, and we're extremely grateful for your contributions and for finding time out of your busy schedule to come and attend to this very important meeting. We wish you all the best, and may the good Lord bless you. Thank you.
cherish so close to my heart. This land founded on justice.